All right, Nicole. I'm sure Luca will be joining us shortly, but how are we doing today?
We're doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. Anytime we get a chance to chat with somebody as cool as this guy, it's definitely quite the experience. He's crushing it out here. So definitely hope we can definitely have this conversation. But what have you been up to? I know it's early out in Los Angeles, but, you having a good morning so far?
I'm having a good morning. I feel like I haven't been on Twitter in a day, and I feel like literally this is I retweeted the space link and then I came here, but I feel like I'm so out of touch because I get all my news from Twitter. I don't even know what's happening.
I was nervous yesterday about the spaces. I was like, oh man, like Twitter's having some issues. Like, hopefully we can make this happen. Twitter was down yesterday, Instagram was down yesterday. I was like, what's going to go on with these Twitter spaces? So hopefully they can get that figured out. But yeah, I'm not even sure. And then the SEC's talking about banning staking. I mean, there's never a dull moment in this space, that's for sure.
What? Is that what's happening now?
Well, it's a rumor. We don't know what's going on. Like Brian Armstrong dropped a thread on it yesterday. That was definitely very insightful. Some good takes in there, but that would definitely not be ideal if that was on the minds of the powers that be in this country. But we'll have to see.
Well, I gotta go look at that thread. What did he say?
Oh, he just like broke it down, just like talking about how like stifling innovation is probably not the best of all ideas, and the damage that this could potentially do. Essentially, talking about a brain drain. I mean, it's definitely worth a read, but nothing is official yet. But if he's hearing rumors of it, then Lord knows what's going on. Essentially, they're trying to ban staking for the retail investor. So, to my understanding, that means that you would need some kind of accreditation to be participating in that in the future. But hopefully, that doesn't happen.
Wow. Also, I saw Balaji dropped the Network State podcast first episode, Vitalik Buterin.
Yeah, that's what a way to start, right? Vitalik definitely the person that you'd want to be talked to. He's probably got some interesting perspectives on what's ongoing in this space every single day. Curious about his take on the Bitcoin NFTs. Would definitely like to hear him chat about that. What do you think about those, Nicole? You have any thoughts?
I just don't know if Bitcoin NFTs are gonna make it. I think it's more of a hopeful thing.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just have like weird experiences with the Bitcoin community, but it could be a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm bullish. Like Udi, if Udi's bullish on Bitcoin NFTs, then how can you not? That guy's an OG. He's been around.
That's
You know,
true. I think in that case, in that case, Udi will like pioneer Bitcoin NFTs, and then the crowd will follow Udi in that case.
Yeah, I just think you got to kind of like innovation's kind of like water, right? Like whatever which way it's flowing, you really don't want to get in the way because you're probably not going to win that battle. So, it's interesting that some OG Bitcoiners are not as happy with the Bitcoin NFTs when they were championing anything and everything just a few years ago. So, I'm very interested to see how that plays out. I hope Luca joins because we definitely have some interesting questions. The guy's got some unique perspective. So hopefully he joins us today, but he's a very busy man. Being a founder of an organization like Pudgy Penguins, every minute of every day is, going to be used. So we'll have to see what happens.
I did just see he posted 24 minutes ago, so he's around. So we know he's not sleeping.
Okay, well that's bullish. That's bullish. I mean, he'll grace us with his presence soon enough, but what are you gonna do? This is Web3. People have shit going on every single day. I can't even imagine what it's like over there at Pudgy Penguins HQ right now.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. Now they have a show.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to them. Like the YouTube, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to them about. But the YouTube creation and expanding outside of Twitter is something they understand very well. I don't know if you guys have seen the Pudgy Penguin vlogs on YouTube. The show is called Building in Public. Would definitely recommend that you guys check it out. They have 2 videos, and they're already at like over 3,000 subscribers. So definitely kind of crushing it. The quality of content way more important than maybe the quantity for them. Like they're winning with that formula. The vlogs are high quality. It's just very very great entertainment that is outside of Twitter. So you cannot be bullish on Pudgy Penguins.
Very true. I do have an update from Luca. He texted me that he is dealing with a huge fire right now and will jump in the second it's resolved, but he can't get off. I don't know when that is.
Well, that's okay. That's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles in this space. So we'll just hold it down for him. Hopefully he drops in. We got a couple questions. That I definitely wanted to ask him and get his perspective on. But we'll just hold it down in the meantime, Nicole. That's okay.
All right, let's hold it down. What other updates you got, Alan?
Well, I mean, there's never a dull moment in this space. So just like hearing the OGs of, different perspectives, like I think Bitcoin NFTs, like that was a conversation that was going on this morning with, a lot of different perspectives outside of my understanding, to be honest with you, why some people are bullish, some people are bearish. The crypto punk, collection on Bitcoin, like I saw that sold out. So that's kind of crazy. We'll see what happens if those end up being a legacy play or a quick buck. It's hard to tell, but yeah, I don't know. Did you see the Bitcoin crypto punks or no?
No, can we pin them?
Yeah. I mean, I could probably find that tweet around here somewhere, but just kind of interesting. I do like the art of the crypto punks, but it would be nice maybe if like everybody stopped trying to recreate the lightning in a bottle that was that collection. Like crypto punks has been done, so why are we releasing a crypto punk collection on every single blockchain? Maybe that is the play, but I'm not 100% positive about that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That
Nicole, you did have some interesting conversations with Luca though. Like I was listening to your podcast, and if you wouldn't mind if we could just like talk about that a little bit, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, so I did interview Luke on my podcast. Um, Something that really hit me from talking to him was how crucial it is to communicate. I'm in my early 30s, but how crucial it is to communicate with younger and younger generations. I mean, he was telling me he grew up with with cell phones, and everyone in that generation grew up with cell phones, so they really know how to do things. They understand culture. They understand community in a way that, you know, I feel like maybe my generation doesn't. And um, him particularly, he has a very robust background in social media, productizing people, um, influencers. I mean, the whole thing. It's like inevitable that Pudgy Penguins would be a success with him. That was my takeaway from the interview, because he gets it. He communicates with people. He really goes out of his way to build community, whether it's events or Twitter or whatever it is. He just gets it. So
Yeah, I thought it was interesting his take on school. Like, he dropped out like super early. Like, I think he was like 16 years old, became a first mover in e-commerce, like was super successful from that. But he kind of talked about how school is, raises employees or produces employees, not entrepreneurs. And, how people are like programmed to raise their hand. Like even after you've left school, like you're in a meeting in the business world and you're a little hesitant to speak, that kind of behavior, so I think school is ups and downs, but I do kind of agree with that it kind of breeds more employees than entrepreneurs. So for him to have that perspective that
yeah,
early is really
yeah, I thought that was really interesting too. The school raising employees thing, but I think it's very in line with the sentiment that I see on Twitter about like college degrees, for example, because you see a lot of tweets that are like college degrees are a scam, talking about how much student debt people have and what are they really learning, and is school equipping them with the tools to go out there in the world and make lots of money. And in a lot of cases, no. Unless you're becoming a lawyer or a doctor or something that requires a degree of expertise, the information that we want is already online. Like, if you really think about it, all of the information we need is online. And the other thing is, people talk about like, oh, you need to go to college to make friends and stuff. It's like you could find community anywhere. You can go to a religious organization. You can go to, you know, any type of group situation and take an art class. Like, you can find people anywhere really. I mean, maybe like there's fraternity and sorority life, but even that sometimes seems harmful to me. So I mean, maybe my opinions are one-sided and I feel a particular way about it, but I also feel like the internet, or at least Twitter sort of agrees with, Luca here, where it's like, why didn't school teach us the things that would have helped us one, gain financial freedom, and two, help us thrive in the relationships that we have, because it's not just about money. It's like, we know that happiness comes from having, long-term positive relationships in our lives, but nobody teaches us, like, how to have intimacy, how to resolve conflicts. Like, this is something that we learn through trial and error, and from falling outs and friendships, and you know things like that. And that's something that really resonated with me from that conversation.
100%. I mean, I went to college and I got a business degree, and I always honestly thought if you're pursuing something outside of STEM, like unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist, the best thing you can get out of college is the networking and people building skills if you want to go that route. Just because once I graduated college, nobody gave a fuck about my college degree. I mean, you got to think about, if you have a business degree, how many people are graduating every year from universities with business degrees? You're not really setting yourself apart that much. What people cared about and how I got hired at VaynerMedia in my first job out of school, right, for Gary Vee. They didn't ask one question about my degree. They didn't ask one question about my GPA. They said, hey, we want to see what you can do on social media. We see you have some audiences. Like, show us what you can do so you can hit the ground running. Like, unfortunately, you can get some training in jobs for sure, but these organizations have projects that are happening right now. So when they hire you, they want to know if you can make an immediate impact. And that's honestly what got me in the door. The business degree and college degree didn't really do much. So I'm not sure what you think about that, Nicole. But
I mean, it makes sense. I think it totally makes sense. um I don't know. I think this is something that should be talked about, not just more on Twitter Spaces, but more in general. Like, what are the things, what are the tools that we need? Relationship building, financial literacy skills. I mean, Luca listed a ton in the podcast, where I was just like, dang, you really know the formula. And that's something I wouldn't be surprised if someone else came up with a curriculum, and like a private school was started where, you know where people could put their kids in it, and be like, this school teaches your kids taxes and EQ skills and stuff like that. It's just, to me, it's inevitable.
yeah, you mentioned you, Nicole, and you and I probably understand what that means. But for maybe some people who don't really follow that, can you maybe elaborate on what that is?
What, EQ?
Yes, ma'am.
So IQ is intelligence, EQ is emotional intelligence. So, that sort of falls under the umbrella of, like, how do you negotiate, and how do you leave a positive impact on someone, and how do you build relationships, and things like that really do dramatically influence the course of your life. Because if you don't understand people skills, and you don't understand human nature, then you really don't know how to deal with things in life, because everything really involves other people. Most things involve other people, unless it's like your own health. But even if it is a financial thing, it's like you have to learn how to, you know, get the right lawyers and get the right accountants. And how do you even put yourself in a position to have um, quality lawyers and quality accountants? Well, you need to get recommendations from quality people that you need to build relationships with, who trust you and value you and think highly of you, that will give you those resources. So everything really involves people skills. And if you don't have people skills, and you don't know how to do stuff like that, then you're at a disadvantage. And nobody tells you this. Nobody tells you this in school. They teach you things, exactly what Lucas said, priming you to be an employee, how to raise your hand. You can't go to the bathroom unless you get permission from someone else. Well, really, that's unsustainable. And honestly, that's a little unhealthy. Every entrepreneur that you see, I think, really is an innovator and a self-starter, and plays by his or her own rules. And that's something that should be taught. I mean, I think about, like, the way people engage on the internet, for example. I mean, Twitter, a lot of what you see is people fighting over politics, or over other people's decisions or belief systems. And that's essentially you just sitting there pointing fingers, blaming other people. But the reality is, you should be following entrepreneurs, because you'll learn the most from them. They're the people that really had to figure out their own way. They found mentors, they found role models, they raised capital, they did what they needed to do to create a sustainable business that society needed. And I think that's, that's the beauty of having something like Twitter, where a lot of us have met, entrepreneurs like Luca, entrepreneurs, like Brian Chesky from Airbnb, or Naval from AngelList, or people that have created things that are highly valuable in society, and we can learn from those people. And if you're sitting there fighting over politics, well, I have news for you. You're not that's not going to help you. So that's my take.
No, I mean that's definitely well said. Crypto Twitter from a networking perspective, is absolutely unbelievable. Like, create your content, write your GMs, but also take the opportunity to connect with people that you would not have access to, outside of this little silo right now. And look, as crypto Twitter continues to expand, these opportunities are going to just diminish, unfortunately. So definitely take the advantage of trying to network with people when you can. Nicole, I'm curious what you think about developing people's skills, right? Like, do you think that the best way to do that is just to throw yourself into the fire, and just like start talking to as many people as you can, even if it makes you uncomfortable? Because some people are naturally extroverts, right? Like, they don't mind talking to the people. It comes very easy to them. But some people, having conversations, having small talk is like the most terrifying thing on planet Earth. So how would you suggest that people kind of circumvent that fear and just start really developing professional communication skills and personable
In
skills?
terms of like what, having the audacity to reach out to people.
Well, yeah, like you and I, like no problem. Like, we can talk to people all day long, but like connecting with people and having small talk and, literally being personable is really a bridge too far for a lot of people. Like, it's just not in their arsenal right now. So if it doesn't come naturally to you, what would you say is the best strategy to kind of develop those skills? Like, do you think it's just throwing yourself into the
I
fire,
think
or do you think there's
No,
other?
I think here's the advice that I give to other people that changed my life, that someone I'm very close to, Neil Strauss, said to me once. He said, people are largely interested in themselves. People's favorite subject is themselves. And when you lead with that, you realize, okay, how can I take that information and apply it to relationship building? Well, you can ask people questions about themselves. You can be interested. People love talking about themselves. People love when other people are listening to, their life story or their mission or whatever it is that motivates them. So if you meet someone, just keep asking them questions about themselves. And that makes them feel important. That's something that everyone wants to feel, even if it's a billionaire. They want to know that they're affecting the world in a positive way, and that people think highly of them. So if you can play to people's egos, and you ask them questions and you make them feel important, that's half the battle. So no matter who you're dealing with, that's a really, really good strategy. It has always worked for me. Um, I think being an interviewer, whether it's on Clubhouse or here or on my podcast, being interested in other people is what makes them feel connected to me. So if I need anything from them, if I want to learn anything from them, I already have that in, because they know that I'm interested in what they're doing and who they are. And so if you lead with that knowledge, I think that'll take you everywhere you want to go. Obviously, it's hard to have access to other people. Um, However, you can climb the ranks. And the other thing is, anyone who's successful and has built relationships that have helped the trajectory of their life will tell you a lot of people said no to them. It's, and that you can't let that discourage you. Just because like 10 people don't answer you, that's fine, one will. And I saw a quote from, not a quote, a tweet from Alex Hormozy this morning, where he said, and I'll pin it, he said, whenever I get to a low point where I think, why do I even bother, I just try to remind myself, this is where most people stop, and this is why they don't win. That's the difference between people who are winners and people who just give up. You know what I mean? Winners literally sit there and have failure after failure after failure after failure. And then one thing happens that goes their way, and they're like, all right, cool. And they keep going. They don't care that like 10 people didn't answer their message. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the mentality you have to have, that there is no failure really. Every failure is just a stepping stone. You have to think of it as like literally steps, like you're walking up a ladder or a staircase, and every step is a failure, and then eventually you'll get to the top. And that's just how it is. You know what I mean? That's why they talk about perseverance and determination and stuff like that over and over again. These things aren't cliches.
Yeah, you've interviewed literally tons and tons of people, right? And some of the most successful people as well, right? So, what would you say is like the most common trait that you see? Is it what you just said, like them just not willing to give up and not willing to accept losses? Like, what is like the most common thing that stood out for you from these people that you've interviewed who are just immensely successful and connected?
Yeah, I think that has to be the main thing. Also, the ability to adapt if something's not working. They have, I don't know if it's humility, but they realize, hey, this is not working. Now I have to try something else. I'm not going to push this if it's not working. And I'm specifically talking about like entrepreneurial endeavors. Like, for example, if you start an app and nobody cares about it and you've already marketed it and people are like, they don't really care about the product, and they're not staying on to play the game or connect with whoever, then it's like, okay, you have to change some things, you have to adapt. So the ability to adapt, the ability to persevere, um, and then another thing that entrepreneurs tell me is hiring slowly and firing quickly is the move. Like if something is not working or someone does not really match with the company or isn't taking the company forward, you're doing them a favor by letting them go, because they probably don't really like what they're doing. And you let them go, your company, you find someone better to replace them, your company thrives, and also they're probably going to thrive. I mean, I think about like how many times I was let go by jobs that I didn't really give a shit about, and they were actually doing me a favor. Every time it wasn't like what I'm doing now, talking to other people, that's what I love to do. Whether I'm doing it here or I'm doing it on my podcast, that's truly what I love to do. If I was doing anything else, I don't really know that I would be passionate about it. So every other role I had, they were doing me a favor by either them letting me go or me leaving. So that's.
Yeah, I mean, definitely hear that. You have to find, the right place for yourself as well. And there's so much opportunity right now. Like you do talk to a lot of founders who hire a lot of people, right? So have they given any insights? Because there's so many people who want to work in Web3, who want to work in crypto, who want to work in startups. Have they given any insights about what makes a great employee or a great team member, like why they would bring people on? Because it's so competitive out there. What do these thought leaders and business leaders look for when they're hiring people?
Self-starters and creative people. I feel like they want people who take initiative. Not someone who just comes and does what they're told, but people who like bring ideas like, hey, what about this idea? Or have we tried this? Or have we reached out to this person? Or maybe we can do a partnership with this company. Like those are the kinds of people that really make companies thrive. And that's why a lot of startups poach from other bigger businesses. Like if someone's starting a media company and they've raised a lot of capital, you know, they try to go to another much bigger media company and poach their talent, and not just offer them cash but offer them equity in the startup so that they'd leave. And that's something that happens very, very often.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you're kind of in that entrepreneurial world. Like, what have you seen that have been some common mistakes that people have made why they have not been successful? Whether that's a business leader or an employee or a team member. Like, you've just kind of been in there for a while, have met a lot of different people. Like, what are the common traits that you've seen that have led to failure?
Like the common traits in who?
Just anybody. I mean, not, it's a very cutthroat field, right? Not everybody's going to make it. And whether it's crypto or DeFi or startups, like if you want to be the best of the best, like, that also means a lot of people are like NGMI, like they're not going to make it. So what have you just seen, like, for people to even stay relevant? Like people can have one good year, it's like an athlete, and not any athlete can have one good season, right? And blow it out of the water. But the consistent factor, like what have you seen about people who've kind of fallen off or not lived up to their potential? Like what mistakes did they make?
Doing the bare minimum. And when I think of that, I also think of like everyone here who's trying to grow their Twitter. You're not going to grow your Twitter if you're not writing fire tweets and fire threads constantly, because other people are doing that. and that's who everybody follows. And then once they follow them, they turn on post notifications for them because they don't want to miss their stuff. I notice it too. If I stop tweeting for a week and I've done that, my engagement is so low, I can't even process it. And I had to be honest with myself. What was the problem? I was doing the bare minimum. I just thought, okay, well, I grew this following and I can tweet, a couple times a week and that's it. You can't though. You know what I mean? You have to be the best. You have to look at who else is out there and what they're doing and be like, okay, I'm going to not only match that kind of energy, I'm going to think of other ways to make my Twitter more engaging or whatever job it is that you have. You have to think in your head, I want to be the best at this.
100%. And you also are just extremely talented at talking to people, right, and interviewing people. Like, and that's kind of a unique job. Like, that's not really something that they ask you when you want to grow up. What do you want to be? So how did you kind of get into a unique position that you kind of like created for yourself? Like, there wasn't a place to apply of like, hey, I want to be a podcaster, I want to be an interviewer. And you've also grown your platform on multiple different, platforms, I guess, right? Like, you started off on Clubhouse, you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter. Like, some people can grow an audience on one platform, right? But to replicate that on other ones, is definitely impressive. Could you kind of talk about your journey and how you kind of got a dream job, right? Would you consider this a dream job for yourself?
Yeah, talking to people is a dream job for me. Talking to smart people and learning from them is a dream job for me. Because selfishly it helps me. And not just that, selflessly it helps build community. And I love, like, it's not always 100, 1,000 people in a room, but like, a lot of times we do these Twitter spaces and people reach out and I get to talk to them, and I love that about this job. you know I think um I think what helped me the most to get here was, one, the persistence. Was that your question, by the way? I completely forgot.
Yeah, no, my question was just like, you kind of have created the reality for yourself where you get up every day and truly enjoy what you do. And it's not really a traditional job or traditional path. Like, there is no really where to apply to do what you do. So how did you kind of create that reality for yourself?
So the way that I created it was, I noticed that everybody was on social media. So I was like, that's where I need to go. So I built out a page beyond the interview on Instagram. When new apps would come out, I would learn how to post on them. Like, I grew on TikTok to like 130,000, but then Clubhouse came out, and then I saw that everybody was on that app. Like every tech entrepreneur that I looked up to, and a lot of public figures. And so I learned how to grow really fast on that app, and I learned how to sort of like game it. You have to learn the algorithm and what people are paying attention to. And so I always figured that out. Same thing on Twitter. When Clubhouse was dying, I was like, what are people talking about? All my friends moved there to do NFT spaces. I didn't know what NFTs were. I really didn't have any crypto. So I was like, let me go learn about this and figure out what's so exciting about it. And by the way, something that really made NFTs what they are, especially collectible projects, was the community thing. And it was also Twitter Spaces. In the real world, when you go out, your face and your appearance and like your swag and your outfit, it really does matter when you walk into a room. Like, people, and some people are shy and some people aren't as talkative, but when you're on Twitter Spaces and you have a collectible that's your avatar, and people see, for example, you have a pudgy penguin and they have one, they're like, oh, we're in the same community, and it bonds you and connects you. And it was like everyone in the same communities was following each other, and that's what created the sense of community, that you weren't really looking at superficial traits that other people had. You were looking at an avatar. Sorry to take it into another direction, but I feel like this is something that people need to hear. And that's what really drove community. You're bonding about real things. So,
100%. You also, though, just before I forget, like, you witnessed the death of Clubhouse when you had a massive audience on there. Like, I'm sure that there was some red flags that made themselves present, that for people that had big audiences on Clubhouse were probably trying to. people are also worried about Twitter, right? Like people have grown big audiences on Twitter, and they're worried about this platform maintaining its relevance. So, what are some of the things that you saw on Clubhouse that were like, oh, this platform is toast, like we got to move? And have you seen any of those signs on Twitter yet?
I think about this all the time. I think creators need to be incentivized to stay on. And what incentives do creators have? Money. If they're not making money, and by the way, that's a lot of the reason people wanted to learn what trades to make. It's because people wanted to make money, whether it's DeFi or NFTs or whatever. People wanted to know like what coins are pumping or what NFTs are pumping. Um, you have to incentivize creators to stay on an app, and the way to do that is for them to make money. So when the numbers went down on Clubhouse, all the sponsors were leaving us, and we left the app. So we saw that everyone else was on Twitter. People were making money trading NFTs, and they left. And a lot of the hosts were getting paid by NFT projects or whoever, DeFi companies or NFT companies, to host spaces instead of rooms on Clubhouse. And that's what made everybody move. I mean, you think about why numbers. You think about why people have any incentive to do a social audio space over any other type of content. Why are people doing YouTube over Twitter Spaces? You know why? Because they get paid to do videos. If they build on YouTube, they can make money from every single video when people watch it. You know who's incentivized the most to do Twitter Spaces? Mario Nafal, because he was pumped. Now his spaces get numbers. Now he's incentivized to do more. But if more and more creators were able to get that kind of reach, I guarantee you, way more people would be on Twitter Spaces.
Without a doubt, Mario definitely capitalized on that FTX moment, and hosted some very interesting conversations, breaking news, and absolutely blew up. Right, that's the other thing, is recognizing when the opportunity is there, and where the attention is, and creating content around that. If you do want to differentiate yourself in Twitter Spaces, because Mario kind of has the breaking news, cornered. There's a like market talk, with Easy and there's a couple other people, that have kind of this breaking news segment covered. Like, how do you even differentiate yourself? Like, there's so many people who want to be Twitter Spaces hosts and are trying to get people in rooms and are trying to have interesting conversations. Like, what would you say, as somebody who's been interviewing for people for a long time, has grown platforms or audiences on different platforms? Like, what can you do today to try and differentiate yourself as a speaker when there's already so much competition out there?
Build a team, because people really fall in love with dynamics between hosts. You know what I mean? Like, and not just hosts and listeners who come up and ask questions. It's really like a vibe. When you think about even the Twitter Spaces in the NFT space that do well, it's like Rug Radio with Farouk and OSF and Mondo, or like, Thread Guy and Leap, or Nick and Pio, like, and you and I just started doing this together. Like, you really have to build a community in that way and include other people and communicate with other people and listen to what other people are curious about and what they want to know, and deliver that type of content. And you have to do it over and over again, relentlessly, so much persistence. And that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And just kind of building off that, as somebody who's like been on multiple platforms self, is there a platform right now that you think people are kind of sleeping on? In terms of audience growth, like is it YouTube? Is there something else that we haven't heard of yet? You have a lot of entrepreneurial friends and whatnot. Like, what are they building that you have your eyes on that maybe we should be paying attention to?
I think
The realm of so.
I think YouTube and Twitch are two platforms that people are sleeping on, but I also think there are new, like, we don't know what the next Clubhouse, Twitter, Instagram is going to be. It could be Farcaster, which is a new app. I mean, you can message the founder Dan Romero and ask for a code for to get on the app. And there's a lot of tech people and a lot of entrepreneurs that are using it. It's supposed to be decentralized social media, and there's a lot of stuff being built. We don't know what's going to be the next thing, but if you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening and on the pulse of innovation, you might end up, because you're an early first adopter, you might be, the next hottest thing on a new app that blows up. You don't know. But I do think people are sleeping on YouTube. If you don't create a channel and you don't grow on there, that's going to work against you. And I think people are sleeping on Twitch as well. I haven't personally used it, but I know a lot of Twitter Spaces hosts that are building on Twitch, and they have great experiences, and it's worth looking at. What do you think?
I mean, Farcaster is certainly interesting. I just got on there the other day because as somebody who's had accounts banned, right, just for literally no reason, like Instagram and Twitter, like someday you get a message and your account disappears, and you kind of just get the arbitrary customer service, like send us an email, and it's basically just a black hole. It's good luck on getting that. So the decentralized social media like Farcaster, you have your little seed phrase that's connected to your social media account, and as long as you have your seed phrase, you can take your account and followers wherever you go. Like there's literally no way that it can be banned unless, this is my understanding, the fucking blockchain goes down. So I'm bullish on that aspect. It's kind of definitely interesting, and if you can avoid the sadness of putting all these hours in growing your page and putting all this quality content out here, and then one day it's just gone. That can happen on YouTube. That can happen on Instagram. It can happen on Twitter. So there's not really a lot of insurance for creators to protect their platforms against the will of the algorithm. So that's why I'm definitely bullish on the decentralized social media. But I also wanted to ask you, Nicole, because again, like you do have a very unique perspective, and you have talked to a lot of these entrepreneurs in influential people. Is there anyone that or two that have like stuck out to you that like you kind of look up to, that you kind of had a eureka moment that this person moves different, like this is not just another entrepreneur or whatever, this person actually has a really unique perspective? Is there one that pops out in your mind?
Entrepreneur or Twitter Spaces host?
Any how about a human being? We won't make it too specific. Any one of those people that you've kind of connected with that you've been like, this person it moves different essentially.
I think, and I feel like you'll agree with me here, but I think that Thread Guy as a host and community builder really stands out to me, because he has that like alive hyper energy, but he's still really able to, you know, communicate with tons of people. I feel like he retweets a lot of his fans. He's a community leader, but he also has that energy that people gravitate towards. And I've done Twitter Spaces with him. He's very prepared. Like he has the questions down. He researches whoever it is. I mean, you do the same thing, but I'm just saying, someone that we both know, that I feel like we look up to in that way, he kills it.
Oh, without a doubt. And also, like TG, Thread Guy has already achieved a level of success, right? He's got 100K on Twitter. He's probably one of the most well known NFT, maybe even crypto influencers, but he's still hungry. That's like something that you do see a little bit after people have a taste of success. Sometimes they let their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. And he could have just continued to stay on Twitter and kept crushing it. And not only is he doing that, like, you said, Nicole, he's hopping on Twitch. And to be able to build your audience outside of one platform is extremely valuable. I'm thinking about different ways to do that myself. Had some initial success on Twitter. What can I naturally do next? Because that's the other thing, is like Thread Guy probably loves doing Twitch. Like, seems like he enjoys it. So finding something that you actually enjoy doing and that caters to your skill set as well is something that I'm looking at, and all of us really should be. And we're supposed to be talking to Thread Guy next week too, so that should be definitely interesting, and we'll be thinking of some conversations that or questions that we can ask him. When's the last time you talked to him, Nicole? Because I know you're kind of out that way. Do you ever just like rub elbows with him, hanging out in LA?
He's not here yet, but I talk to him on the phone like at least once a week. So yeah, I mean, he's taking a break, which everyone has to do. I mean, I totally respect him for that. Um, I agree with you about building on different platforms, and I forgot one other thing that you said, but I'm blanking.
No,
So,
yeah, just
something that I wanted
your skills.
something that I wanted to point out, and I did mention this before about like how everyone has their avatars. I would say, including me, there's probably like 4 or maybe 5 people out of everyone who's here who actually has an avatar of their own face. But I think, as we move closer to like the metaverse and, more and more people get into NFTs or AI or whatever, we're going to see avatars change drastically. People are going to want AI versions of themselves. And also, I'll say as a woman, I think that, like, did you see how much criticism Madonna got after her appearance at the Grammys? Did you see that?
Regards to the plastic surgery, or what are we talking
Yeah, I
about?
mean that's all people were talking about the next day as far as I was concerned on like my social media feeds. But it's like, you know, aging is a thing, whether you're a man or a woman, and women feel, highly criticized and a lot of pressure to look young all the time. And I think now that we have these like AI avatars, not just NFTs, I think a lot of people are going to be using that instead of their own face.
Oh, 100,000%. I mean, you could already tell, the metaverse avatars, everybody's going to be jacked and, looking athletic and, being able to do all these things. It's the writing's kind of on the wall there. Don't forget about your IRL self either, fam. That's still an important thing to be taken care of. AI can make you look great in the metaverse, but, the IRL components are definitely important too. And, as Nicole has experienced herself with interviewing people IRL, and going to these events, as I have experienced myself with interviewing people and going to these events, the IRL component of this space is something that, you just got to be very comfortable with throwing yourself into, in my opinion. Like, there's so much progress that can be made just from going to some of these events. Like, even Miami Hack Week was this past week, right? And there's so many people in town, so many events that you could go to. And, just like have people learn about who you are. Like, your question, if you're trying to grow, is like, how are people going to find out about you? Like, if you're only dropping a couple tweets and, you're only kind of staying in the digital realm, that's like one side of the equation and one side of the coin. There's so many events that are right now, and we're still, I know it's cliche, but we're still so early, right? It's like the people going to these events are like incredible and extremely connected and successful. Like, eventually, as crypto becomes more of a, larger, scale and the masses come in, you would think the events would just become more, diluted, right? Like, just more normies there and stuff like that. So take advantage of networking while you can. Are there any events that you're looking forward to this year, Nicole? Are you going to Eat Denver or something like that?
I am not going. A lot of my friends are going. Um, I think the conferences were really popular last year, and I don't know. It's not even the conference that's popular. I think it's the events around the conference that everyone's excited about going to, whether it's NFT or ETH Denver or something else. I think people just want to be around people that they feel a sense of belonging with. Um, and I think that's the main takeaway that I've gotten as I've been here. It's not that it's the conference or whatever. It's like you can hear a lot of these people speak on Twitter Spaces. You can look them up, and they have tons of interviews, and they share the same insight. It's like authors. They know their talking points. They share the same points over and over again. The reality is that people want to feel a sense of belonging, and they want to go somewhere. They want to walk into a room or a party where people recognize them and and feel connected to them and ask them about their lives, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should have clarified. I did not go to one of the like actual conferences, like, or listen to people speak last year. It was all these like side events, like NFT NYC, Art Basel, VCon. VCon was a little different because you're kind of walking around and there are people speaking, but that was definitely probably my favorite event last year. And VCon 2 is in Indianapolis this year. Obviously, I'm a little biased. Used to work for Gary Vee, but those events are absolutely insane. They're incredible. I know they took a lot of learnings from VCon 1 and that they're expecting VCon 2 to be even better. So, I'm personally going to be there, Indianapolis, not the first place that I would have marked on my calendar for a little vacation. But no worries at all. Like, we'll make our way down there and we'll check it out. Are you planning on going to VCon this year, Nicole, or are you kind of
VCon
not
was my
interested?
favorite conference out of all of them. I loved VCon. I actually did listen to a lot of the talks, and I had the best time there. So yes, I'm 100% in on VCon.
Yeah, I liked the just everybody being inside the stadium and also kind of being in one of the quote unquote smaller market towns. Like nothing against Minneapolis, but it's not LA, right? It's not New York. It's not one of these massive cities that are super challenging to get around. Like, Uber in New York and Miami was an absolute joke, especially during Art Basel. The traffic in Miami, they were hosting events in South Beach, and they're like, yep, you got to go to Brickell now. And it's about an hour and a half via Uber because of all the traffic. So Minneapolis did not have that problem, and now Indianapolis is the next location up for them. So the NFL stadium model for events is really awesome because we just all kind of are in the same area. You bump into people that you just don't really expect or probably would have seen because the area is very condensed. So definitely looking forward to that as well. Are you going to be in Miami at some point, Nicole? Because Miami's kind of starting to pop off again. We've got Art Basel, we've got at Miami Hack Week that just happened. There's a ton of different events that are going on. What are you thinking about Miami this year? Are you going to make your way down here?
I am 100% gonna make myself. I'm gonna make my way down to Miami. I love Miami. A lot of people in tech have moved there. A lot of people in crypto are there, and the weather's beautiful and it's amazing. So I will be there.
Well, is California dead? Right. You just mentioned a lot of people are moving to
I don't think
Florida.
it's
So
dead. I think people still like it here, but I think people are. I think the reason people move is because of like taxes. That's what I really think.
yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, Silicon Valley, we know, is kind of still right popping off and whatnot, but it's just kind of crazy, what we're kind of seeing in Miami. But look, I don't think Luke is going to be able to join us this time. We kind of have that just confirmed, so we'll try and get another space with him because absolutely insane builder. Creating an incredible project, has a really incredible story. So sorry that it didn't work out this
But
time,
I
fam.
do
But as you
think, but
know,
I do think that we carried the space really, really well. I really liked the conversation that we had. I enjoyed it. Um, I woke up and I wasn't, I was ready to ask questions, but I wasn't sure I was ready to speak. But as an interviewer, you crushed it, and I feel like our dynamic just worked. So the space worked, and I had a really great time, and I'm excited for Thread Guy next week.
100% Thread Guy next week is going to be great. Appreciate you, Nicole. Always appreciate you sharing your perspective. You do have a very interesting role, so I'm glad that the questions also pertain to you, and appreciate you sharing everything. Everybody who stopped by, appreciate you guys. We're about to end it here. Catch us next week. Thread Guy will be hanging out, and peace. Enjoy your weekend, all right?